Attack on Titan, all Titan users, ranked by maturity. Titan's shifting powers were distributed among warriors, Eldians, and even royalty of the past. Some characters handled their power better than others. There have been countless Titan users over the past 1800 plus years, given that they don't live longer than 13 years after inheriting their powers. This list starts when Ymir obtains the founding Titan from the mysterious entity known as the Shining Centipede. Most Titan users die before the first chapter, but the ones that matter most are all alive at some point in the Attack on Titan timeline, although the only survivors after the story's conclusion are Peak Finger, Reiner Braun, Armin Arlert, and Falco Grice. That said, their persistence doesn't necessarily correlate with their maturity levels. 10. Eren Yeager visualizes the world as he wants it to be, no matter the consequences. Eren is, without question, the most reckless of all the Titan users in the story, although it is his very foolhardiness that eventually leads to the disappearance of the Titans. He blows everything out of proportion, demanding justice for his mother's death and expressing a violent vendetta against the monsters that destroyed his home. Eren rarely considers the situation from multiple angles, instead preferring to rely on his warped sense of logic to carry out his plans. 9. Reiner Braun's facade of authority frays when he's under stress. Reiner might be incredibly determined and courageous, but there is something to be said for his lack of self-control. The main problem is that he automatically believes everything Marley claims about the Eldian race. In this, he is much like his cousin Gabi, powering through his convictions without concern for real-world consequences. Interestingly, Reiner assimilates Marcel Galliard's personality after his death, a facade of authority that frays at the first instance of trouble. 8. Berthold Hoover depresses his emotions to the point of breakdown. Berthold and Reiner are best friends, but the two men couldn't be more different. The former is significantly more reticent, not to mention severely lacking in confidence. However, Berthold's emotional distance is exposed to be a front for his true feelings, proving that he never learns how to resolve the ethical conflict between what he does and who he is. Berthold learns that separating his morals from his mission helps him survive, exhibiting an unhealthy form of repression. 7. Annie Leonhardt places her burdens on inexperienced backs. Annie is the strong, silent type, reducing her interactions with other people to the bare minimum. She views the warrior's progress through the lens of realism, refusing to take joy in simple victories when their main goals remain accomplished. On the other hand, Annie tends to explode when provoked, transforming into the female Titan and killing everyone who dares to stand in her way. Despite her practical wisdom, Annie chooses to ignore Eren's wanton destruction, placing the burden on Falco and Gabi's young shoulders because she's too terrified to face her fears. 6. Falco Grice's childish naivete obscures his modest personality. Falco is a sweet, gentle child whose only aim in life is to protect his friend Gabi, something that Reiner instills in him. Though considerably younger than the other Titan users, he displays a level of maturity that few characters are capable of. Unfortunately, Falco's naivete obscures his modest personality and reveals him to be the child he actually is. That said, he's certain to grow into one of the wisest characters after the series' conclusion. 5. Peak Finger is incredibly empathetic and forgiving, even towards Eldians. Peak Finger doesn't let her emotions come in the way of common sense and vice versa. She is trapped within a system beyond her power, only becoming a warrior to ensure her family's health and well-being. Although she gives in to carelessness on occasion, like when she gets Falco intoxicated, Peak is incredibly empathetic and forgiving. In fact, she exhibits almost zero hatred towards the Eldians of Paradis, unlike her cohorts. 4. Zeke Yeager carefully measures his decisions with rationality and logic. Zeke makes several mistakes during his life and career, but he uses them to help build him into the man he eventually becomes. He is an astonishingly adept leader, keeping the warriors on a short leash and making a personal excursion into Paradis to ensure Marley's success. Zeke's refusal to show his softer side is partly due to his wartime experiences. But there is a certain measure of rationality that goes into every decision he makes. 3. Armin Arlert bears his responsibilities without complaint. It's clear that Armin would have never become a political and military giant without Eren and Mikasa's constant support. But his natural compassion is far more important in this respect. He is arguably the only Titan user to openly display remorse and guilt over his actions from the very beginning, demonstrating his undeniable maturity. Armin bears his responsibilities without complaint. A lot of characters would do well to learn from him. 2. Frida Rice illustrates the hallmarks of a great ruler. Frida Rice is the last wielder of the founding Titan to be born into her household, as it is stolen by Grisha Yeager and later granted to his son Eren. She illustrates all the hallmarks of a great ruler, judging from her interactions with her family as well as her subjects. Sadly, Frida begins losing her identity after obtaining the founding Titan, changing from upbeat and polite to gloomy and hostile. It's unclear how she would have handled the power given to her, however, since she perishes a few years after receiving it. 1. Yuri Rice forgives the man hellbent on killing him. Yuri Rice, Frida's uncle and Rod's brother, is easily the most emotionally evolved Titan user in Attack on Titan. When Kenny Ackerman attempts to assassinate him, for the violence inflicted on the Ackerman bloodline, Yuri begs his would-be killer for forgiveness. This unpretentious act stuns Kenny into silence and converts him into a lifelong friend. Although Yuri follows the same path as his father and ancestors, he genuinely wants the best for Paradis and its people.